here. And you?
All right.
Yep, I'm just a minute girl.
All right, so this is the Water System Advisory Council meeting for Tuesday, April 26, 2022. We are located at the Department of Public Works Conference Room at 150 South Kendall Street. I will call the roll, or we'll do introductions. I am Carl Fetters. I'm the DPW Director and the Chair of the committee. Let me start here.
I am Kathy Antea, resident member of the committee.
Kurt Tribbett, engineer administrator for the city of Battle Creek, just a guest for today.
My name is Melissa Whitcomb. I am a civil engineering technician and I am a presenter today.
Welcome. My name is Mark Banky, City Commissioner.
Curry Hart, utility administrator with the city.
Sarah McGinnis, engineering secretary, here doing minutes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
I have Commissioner Banky or Mayor Banky and Tia. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second item here is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was April 27th of 2021. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion, and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And now we can get into the presentation. So I'll let me give you a moment to set this up, but I will introduce Melissa Whitcomb has been with the city for several years in many different capacities, but in the last year and a half, she has really focused on our lead service line abatement program. We found that giving that responsibility to one individual really helps streamline the process. And we've asked Melissa to come in and kind of walk through what the process is and what a normal customer would experience through the process. And so I need a moment or two to get this
There's a button.
here.
Hey, Chris.
And Melissa, you are all set, ready to go if you'd like.
Okay. All right, this is just a quick run over of how our lead service replacement program goes in the engineering department. We work with the water department starting out, but I'm going to go over how we decide where our lead service replacements are, why we decide that, what the homeowners can expect from us all the way through the process. So this is a little map we make every year. It has our treatments for the coming year. It's a moving body. It continuously moves depending on budget, lead service line replacements, lots of different things go into this map. This is just a little snippet. Obviously, it doesn't show the whole city, but the roads we're focusing on this year are the yellow roads. Yellow roads are getting new pavement. So what we do is we go through the year prior, we just started doing this last year. The water department does as many lead service replacements as they can possibly do the year prior to these treatments. Then we come in this year, 2022, and my contracted work goes out and we do all the full service replacements. Yep, that's. So how this starts, we have a work order system called City Works, where we make VAC and verify work orders. That's a nice picture of our water department crew doing a VAC and verify. That's what you'll see as a resident in front of your home. And then that letter there next to it is what you would receive if you did in fact have a lead or galvanized water service. If anybody needs a copy of that, I can send any of that kind of things to you guys. But that bottom picture is what it looks like after it's been back and verified. But then the water department comes back and puts topsoil and grass seed around those eventually. But yeah, that's them on Wabash or McKinley Street this year, which is the roads that we're paving next year. So they're ahead of the process already. Go ahead, Gab.
How long is the eventually-ish?
So right now, we are 1 year ahead of this process. So they're doing back and verifies this year for what we're replacing next year. Now, the water department will be doing some of those replacements later on this summer. But they receive a 45-day notice, which is in the next slide.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine.
My question was, how long does the neighbor have to live with that?
Oh, with that.
Spot in the front of their house?
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
I'm looking at.
That would be a better question for the water department, but I believe they go down in maybe a week.
Okay,
Something
no
like that.
worries.
And sometimes I've seen them do where they vac and verify and they have a crew behind them going back and
Great.
doing the cleanup too.
Thank
So it's a pretty fast process, but I think a week at most is what they try to, otherwise they get too behind because they're doing lots of vac and verifies for us. So
So yeah, typically the way that this works is because we're trying to be most efficient with our time and our resources, is that you'll see this crew kind of going down the street methodically, one after the other.
Ding, ding, ding.
And so they may get ahead of the restoration crew and then come back and do that. So
Gotcha.
the more grouping that we can do, the better off we'll be and be more efficient.
yeah, and sometimes the water service boxes are even in driveways, they're in sidewalks. So sometimes houses will get skipped because of that. And they come back with a saw cutting crew that does that work too. So it's different situations for different, houses, residents and things. So sometimes there's trees in the way. Yeah, it's all dependent,
It's complicated.
every place is different, so.
Yep.
Yep, so these are the letters that go out to the residents. This is the one that I send out specifically for engineering because it says on there privately owned water services. So those are going into people, that's where we need to go into people's homes and replace the water service all the way from the meter out to the road. There are different letters for the water department that we send out that say publicly owned water services. So that's just when they have copper going into the home, which is what's the word I'm looking for? Accepted pipe material. The water department does the lead replacement out to the road to the copper. So, and then once we send out that letter, we need a water service line consent agreement sent to the homeowners. Getting people to actually call us back is a huge issue that I've ran into running this program. Not a ton of residents will respond to the letters. I've found that you get more of a response when you actually send the letters to the homeowner's name instead of saying current resident or current homeowner kind of thing. So I've seen a more response. I've added my email to these letters and I've seen a lot more people actually emailing me personally, to my city email address, but then if they won't answer my letter after a 45-day notice, and then after a second notice, we have ways of getting through the water billing system, getting people's phone numbers that are linked to their water billing accounts. And so I'll make phone calls. If they don't answer that, that's when my last resort, which is what I'm doing right now, knocking on doors, hunting people down, trying to get these lead service lines replaced before the road gets paved. So it's not always the easiest process, but.
And one point about these, any documentation that we send out as part of the program has been reviewed by our communications manager. And if it's the agreement, it's been reviewed by our city attorney. So even when they come back, they get reviewed by the city attorney. And we've taken steps to kind of try to include different languages on all of our letters. So you'll kind of see on all these examples are Burmese and Spanish translations.
I've ran into that a couple times this year where we've had to use a translator and it's worked out pretty well. So.
You want to add the why you have to give it can't be partial.
We cannot do, so if we find a lead service, we cannot do a partial service replacement, which there's a slide later on here that goes into it. It's all a big web, but we cannot replace the lead without replacing the galvanized going into homes, because galvanized is, when was it? 2018 was not is an unacceptable pipe type to connect to. So now that's Eagle's rules, that's our rules. We have to do, so we've started an emergency service replacement through our water department personnel, where we have different contractors that get called and they do emergency service and replacements as well. So,
We'll be on the private side, but we'll do the public side.
yep. My contractors do the whole thing, but it's all planned out. Those are the emergency ones are ones where we find inside the home where it's leaking, the valves are leaking, they have a meter in a pit and it's the valve will be broke at the meter, that kind of thing. That's an emergency where we can't turn people's water off or we can't turn it on. That turns into an emergency type of situation. So
But that is the holdup. If we can't get these connected with these people, then we have a difficult time because we can't do the full service that we need to do. We got paving coming on or breathing down our minute.
Right, when's your job gonna be done?
So the expectation from Eagle is that if we cannot do a full, that we disconnect the service. So that's the direction that we have. Either
we've had a scary letter handed out to some people and we've never had to.
yeah, usually we get to the scary letter and then
It takes months to get there though. You have to really, not want to answer. But this is all a free service that we offer as well. I mean, it's not free for us, but it's free for the homeowner, free for the residents. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of times I get people calling me, this is really free. Yeah, it's really free. We really have to do this.
Free and mandated, but
Yeah.
it's mandated, so you have to get in there. and replace it,
Exactly.
So it's not an option for the city to walk away, right? So.
Right. So these are some pictures of what the lead replacements look like. As you can see, we use a high density polyethylene. Yep. That's the blue pipe in that first picture. And then you can see the old lead service right next to it. They disconnect that, they turn it off and then they disconnect it, or they remove it from the ground. And then,
The lead service.
Little stream
oh
of-
yeah,
This is the lead service.
yeah,
little
sorry.
Stream of water coming out of it.
This
there.
is the new service.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a stream of water coming out of that?
No,
lead?
that is a lead
This is
service
the
line.
That's the pipe itself,
Automated lead service,
gotcha.
new service, new HDPE service.
Yep. And this is a picture of a water meter that was in a pit, raised up out of the pit, because that's what our ordinances say now. And they put in those nice little 90s in and everything,
A new water
And-
meter gets installed with each one of these installations also.
as long as it's an old water meter.
So the blue pipe you're seeing coming up on the right side of the right-hand photo
Mhm.
is the other end of the pipe that you see going into the earth in the left-hand photo.
And that is the private plumbing, the HDP that connects to the copper.
Mhm.
So that's what you would expect if you had one of these full service line replacements. I didn't have a good picture of the curb box. I have a little drawing on one of the next slides.
What
But
is the wire? Is that grounding to the?
Ground wire, maybe?
That could be to our read device,
that's, I
the
believe, what it
radio
is.
read device.
Oh, that blue
No,
box on the left is not the radio read device?
Nope, that's an electrical outlet.
Gotcha. I was just gonna ask, are these the smart meters that some people are freaking out about, or are these?
These meters have been installing since January 2015. There was a spattering of people that had issues with them. All have been resolved.
Glad to hear that, thank you.
one other important part with this is that the work that happens on the interior of the house is governed by the plumbing code. And so a permit is pulled for each one of anything that happens on the inside of the home is permitted through our code enforcement.
Yep, and that's why we have to contract this work out, the full service line replacements, because we don't have, our water department doesn't have a plumbing inspector to be, or a master plumber to pull the permits to do the work,
Nor
so,
do we have the expertise to go into homes.
yes. But our plumbing inspector does come out and, the city plumbing inspector inspects all the work that is done on the inside of homes after the fact, so. Yep, And another fact with that, out in the road, you will see, if you do have a service line replaced, or lead service line replacement, you will see a patch out in the road. They fill with gravel. They now fill those with hot mix within 2 weeks of the service line replacement. You will see the curb line torn up, and sometimes curb, sometimes sidewalk is going to be needed to be replaced. That they have 21 calendar days to replace that. They come back with topsoil, grass seed, hydro seed, concrete, all the works. So, yep, that's a nice little picture that Perry Hart drew, right? Over there on this side.
Multiple skills.
Yeah. So that's what it looks like underground. That's what a full service line replacement going all the way from the meter to the water main, and then a new curb stop out in your right away. After a lead replacement, we are required to give these flushing instructions to all the homes that have lead service line replacements. You know, just in case, but our contractors also do their own sort of flushing as well. They usually turn on the outside spigot of people's homes to get all the air out of the lines so you won't see usually any bubbling, but sometimes you do see some kick up of what's rust, something like that in your privately owned plumbing from this service repair. Because a lot of times these we replace with 1-inch HDPE. And before, the lines were 5/8 lines, 5/8 lead, or 3/4 inch galvanized. So you'll see a huge change in water pressure usually for these homes as well. And I always tell homeowners, they're always excited about that. That's like one of their favorite parts. Like, your water pressure is probably going to go up, and they're excited. So yeah. But yep. And if the homeowner's not home, I always tape it to the doors. So. This is what our treatment map looks like for next year as of right now. Like I said, moving object. We also are doing some full water main replacements. That is the red lines over there on Iroquois and Survey, I believe.
Immediately north of Lake Bear.
Yeah, and then Euclid and N Street over in Post Edition are getting water main replacements next year as well. So those are all 4 of those roads are heavy lead roads. And that is, we've had discussions. We decide what roads we're paving based on where the heavy lead is, but eventually we're going to have to get away from that. You know, we can't just pave all lead service line roads. So we're going to have to be finding new streets here soon. There's new lead services.
So our asset management plans, they talk to each other. And so ideally we would know our funding levels for all of our infrastructure for 5 years in advance. And we would plan accordingly, because we're balancing water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, road infrastructure, and other demands on our money, really. And so it's in our best interest to have the next 5 years of our plans kind of coordinated in such that, you know, we can kind of utilize resources the right way and not put a patch in a road that we just repaved last year. And the city of Battle Creek's doing this a little bit differently than most communities. Some communities are selling a huge bond or are selling debt to go in and just wipe out their lead services. We're confident in our treatment process at Verona that we feel like the more appropriate way to tackle this problem is the way that we're doing, which is incrementally in a way that kind of doesn't damage the road resource that we have. And ultimately we don't have to sell any debt to do it. So it's not costing us any more than just the actual cost of doing business. So.
Yep. And we've also moved to a 3-point verification system. So I know it's by 2045, when we need to have all these lead services out of the ground, we can say with more certainty that we're getting that the lead is gone and the galvanized is gone, because there's been a few times where they will do the vacuum verify like that picture and it says lead to copper, and we get into the home and it's galvanized coming into the home. So we've done a repair on those services to where, because the state only mandates us to back and verify 18 inches on both sides. And at some point, there was a repair done on that privately owned water service. So a lot of residents will get knocks on the door asking if we can see their water meter, if we can see their pipe type. We're working on a process right now to see if we can streamline this a little bit better, but as of right now, we're just knocking on doors and hoping people will let us in and let us see what the pipe material is coming into their homes, so.
How much acceptance are your people getting in having residents allow them in?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people work during the day, so that's a hard thing. A lot of homeowners and residents are not home during the day to be able to let us in, so it's not going as fast as we'd like, but I'd say maybe 50-50. You get a 50% chance of being able to get into the homes, but.
Melissa, if I could add to that, the distribution inventory
Mhm.
is required by the end of 2024. So at that point in time, we need to have conducted this.
Distribution inventory, I'm sorry, can you define what that is?
State is called water, or your distribution system material inventory, DSMI. They want to know what the water services are throughout your entire community, both the publicly owned side, the privately owned side, and verifying the material type inside.
They want us to put eyes on everything.
Okay, that's the inventory is when you say the inventory,
Inventory
you're talking
of
about
water
the
distribution.
requirements, the actual
Mandated.
inventory of everything that collects that information. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the process they set forth is they're using, they know that no community can go and look at every one.
Hearing a lot of technical terms over and over and over again, it's just cognitively, it's very difficult to like
Understand.
digest the information. So it's
Similar to my introduction to wastewater. Totally understand.
Yeah,
We are looking at ways to speed that up, one of which I've just set a meeting up for a couple weeks from now to meet with our new IT director to see if we can't create an online survey to have customers help us out with us going into their homes. Trying to get the information that way.
yep, because other communities have done that.
Yeah,
Right.
East Lansing is working on that right now. So we're gonna try and imitate that.
Mhm.
I want to clarify the dates. End of December 24 is we need to know at a minimum a percentage of our service lines, and the service line replacement is 41. not
41?
45.
Matt told me 45.
20 years from 2021 was the first year.
Okay,
Gotta have it done in 20 years.
That's
Matt
my
told me
remember.
2045.
Matt was adding 20 years to the DSMI. That's an easy mistake. A lot of people have made it.
Yeah.
So are there any questions for Melissa? I just want to go ahead and say that, for 3 years, we kicked this softball around and we finally got to a point that it was moldable enough for Melissa to just run with it. And so if you get a phone call, a letter from Melissa, please be responsive because she will have your best interest in heart and she makes the process very easy. She's a one-stop shop, so you're not talking to multiple people. She can address all your concerns. So thank you, Melissa.
In terms
Our
of,
customer is huge.
Yes.
in terms of outreach to the community, like more general outreach, just to create I know that can be really labor intensive to do. Have you guys done some of that already? I'm just trying to think, I'm trying to remember over the last couple of years. We haven't had NPC, so it was like you go to those neighborhood groups.
So we've,
Jessica doing social media or blasts or anything around that? Or
So there's really been three things, right? We sent the letter out advising people that live in areas of the city that have the propensity for lead service lines. Gave them the heads up that they likely did and invited them to contact us. We've also done the process through utility billing, where anybody moves into a rental unit or a home that has a lead service line, they're given a piece of information from the utility billing clerks. And we've also sent updates through Patty's BC work stuff.
yeah.
what's that?
So BC Works is our.
Oh, yeah, right,
newsletter.
okay.
Um,
So there's updates in that when that goes out?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, it includes our latest test results,
that's good.
includes the process, a little bit about the process. In this last edition it was, so.
And then there will have to be another effort like that if we get this online portal as a way of collecting data. we're gonna have to blast that out somehow.
Yeah, and you know, what's interesting, or we sent out, initially, we did a like a tabletop inventory. And anyone that in our tabletop inventory had a lead service or what was considered a lead service, we sent them a letter. And when we sent that letter, we really had the expectation that we would get inundated with phone calls and questions and everything. We sent out 4,500 letters and we got crickets,
I'm
no
sure.
real volunteers. And honestly, it was a concern of ours because we want to tackle this problem very systematically. And if we get outside of where we want to operate, then we get into an area where we're damaging other infrastructure that we don't really want to touch. So you may have a lead service and we know we're going to replace your street in 5 years. We may not jump all over your lead service.
So thank you for that information. And I think what I'm hearing, or what I'm garnering from what Chris was saying, is that if we just are making sure that our general public knows that this is happening, we're replacing pipes, not a whole lot of detail necessarily, other than what you've already kind of suggested, just to let them know, then they may be more amenable to returning the letter or returning your calls. If the general public just know, oh yeah, they're digging up pipes because they're mandated to replace lead and that kind of stuff. That's what
I almost actually think like, just to the mayor, like something that's operated on a slightly different level. That's because it's a 20-year project. It is a huge undertaking. The amount of work you've invested into getting this rolling, it's pretty impressive. Like I don't ask out of like, well, have you done this? Have you done like you guys have done an awful lot. And I know it takes a lot of energy to get that far, to get the ball to this point. It seems like it's going to continue to just be a real challenge for you.
It's ever changing.
Yeah.
We're tweaking it constantly.
No, obviously, I can just see the level of refinement of like both approach, the materials you're using, all of that, just in the last year or two was pretty big change. I don't know how other board members feel, but
Communication is probably the biggest challenge.
I just think like, is there some way to sort of, I'd like the ways that we can be like more broadly just talking about this effort, and maybe not you guys, maybe enlisting the city manager's office or elected officials, or I don't know what other avenues there are. I don't know what a good way to do it. I don't have.
We've been talking about this for years.
I know
I
we
mean,
have,
it's
Well, we do the same thing. We were involved in some of those early conversations. I mean, we did a door-to-door effort around this and incorporated the lead service line replacement. And we did direct mailings, 2 direct mailings, and went door to door with members of the community, local pastors, Jim Hodsma went, a bunch of residents from the neighborhood, a police officer who worked the neighborhood cop, my daughter, like, you know, we all just went knocking on all the doors 2 times in that same neighborhood. We got 5 people to show up to the school, and we were, you know, promoting other, you know, resources and services. So it was tough.
We are trying to find a balance between, we've got this under control and panic.
I think what's going to happen is that we're going to continue to see folks that that there isn't a lot of awareness. So it's almost like, so what's happened here is you got myself and Kathy who realized this is a situation that isn't easily fixed, and it's not one that where we just haven't put the effort into it, right? Or we don't have the resources. It's going to be something that continues to come up, and I just feel like there's a lot of like elected officials, folks, the city administration, other places, like there has to be sort of some broader understanding that we have a challenge here. Not on you guys, I'm just saying.
So the role of this committee is that exact thing.
Right.
But what I will say is there's a state level of professionals that have the same type of committee. They are charged with helping us. And to date, I'm not sure that help is, there's material available and that sort of thing, but that effort continues just like our effort continues. And so we'll continue to go back to that group and see what they offer in terms of resources to kind of make that communication a little bit. I agree, communication is probably the biggest thing.
Is there anything around this that's like in the city commission goals? I mean, this is a huge effort. And I know in the city of Grand Rapids, replacing lead service lines, I think, and addressing lead poisoning is in their city council goals. Like it is a specific goal around that. And the reason why I bring it up is because if you have a really good strategic plan, if you have a strategic priorities laid out with objectives around them that your organization is trying to follow, then that doesn't just get applied to DPW. This isn't a DPW problem. What happens is it becomes an organization-wide problem. And everyone should be thinking about how do we, I mean, this is, we're doing lead stuff over there, but how do you measure, like, when we create a consolidated plan strategic scorecard for that plan, everything we value goes into that plan. And so if someone comes to me and says, well, I want to offer free bus passes, we don't just score it against, well, how much is this going to help homeless people who need a bus pass? We score it against the entire plan, which pushes people to think about how can I take this idea and, it's that NASA thing, the janitor, you ask him what he does, he says, well, I put people on the moon, right? I just think, I'm just saying, just like that kind of problem.
I'm just trying to think of how I can incorporate it in all the committees that I am involved in, just to bring it up, because it's an environmental thing. So sustainable BC, at least it should be on our radar screen, and a whole variety of things. If we can just get some words out in that regard.
So what I'm hearing, at least from the two of you, is that one way for us to improve is to kind of get outside of the normal. We're very structured in that our goal is to get this specific lead service, but we need to think maybe a little more broadly about broadcasting the program as a whole.
There needs to be some advocacy around that, I think.
Right, and so when they get the letter, it's not the first time they're hearing about it. That makes
So
sense.
when they're expecting, they're expecting a letter and then they finally get it and they're like, oh, Christmas.
So it would be nice. I don't think I'm actually even saying that. I think that would be a nice benefit. I think actually it's just important for people like this effort is a pretty significant one. It's like consuming a ton of department resources, right? Or city resources to do this. We're reorienting how we do streets around this mission and this objective. I mean, we're moving heaven and earth here. It's a big part of your budget, right? I mean,
Certainly earth.
A lot of earth, yeah.
Well, it's worthy of what a great, I know you're mandated. We are mandated to do this, but it's really great customer service. Holy crap. Seriously, all the juggling you're having to do, I'm impressed.
And I try to make sure our residents know I'm with them the whole way. I'm there out beforehand, getting their information, answering their questions, out there when it happens, to hear for them if anything else arises afterwards. It's a whole big thing. But the problem we also run into with those consent forms, I've even talked about it, sending out those consent forms, mass sending out consent forms, getting people to, people move all the time. People sell their homes, renters move. It's hard to do preliminary. There's like Perry was saying, there's a window of where we need to be, and we're in that window. It's just
An
hard to get.
authorization on a service line that we're not going to get to for 11 years is kind of pointless.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Just to respond to Chris, I will check and make sure that it is one of our.
I mean, it's something to think about.
I think it's good though.
It's certainly one of Rebecca's goals.
Any help we can get is appreciated.
Yeah.
Right, I agree.
Mhm.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions, we'll move on to the next. We just have some information to kind of relay. So Perry, you were gonna give us a summary of some of the state activity and.
Carl mentioned the State Drinking Water Advisory Council report. I've got some of the minutes from their past meeting, but the activity they've taken on in the last year was, after a lot of consideration, they went out to an RFP for a marketing firm to assist them with developing literature that will then be trickled down to communities such as ours in order to get that out. They also did a survey, 1,200 responses. They were encouraged at the fact that through CCR, our annual water report, and the documents that, or the responses from those surveys, they felt we had a much better average number of residents that were actually cognizant of water quality reports. That was good news to me. We're working on ours right now, almost got it done. They are considering through this marketing council or marketing organization, they're considering a more organized method of getting that information out to everybody. They did point out that the lead service line replacement started in 2021. Action level, they sent out the reminder that the action level in lead in drinking water is being reduced in 2025 from 15 parts per billion to 12 parts per billion. Not a tremendous concern for the city of Battle Creek. Our phosphate treatment at the plant has us down around 1 as our high. So we've got a lot of leeway there. The treatment system's working great. One other thing I'd like to add to that brief update on the state level is State of Michigan just went to a new website as of yesterday. Things aren't quite as easy to find because you were used to going to certain places. That's gonna take us a while to get all that figured out. And one last thing I'd like to add is we are working on submitting an updated distribution system material inventory list, working with our GIS and records department. Lead service lines replaced in the last 3 years. We did 162 in 2019, 85 in COVID 2020, and 227 in 21. So as a requirement of 5% of our lead inventory needing to be replaced in 2021, it appears we've made that threshold. And working with Melissa in the water division, we have every intention of doing that in the next 19 years.
Questions for Perry?
I won't be here for those 19.
Yeah.
Yes.
Proportion.
Three-ish.
You're too young.
Whatever. You always say you're one bad day. One
So
bad day.
how much,
I don't believe them,
testing
no.
do we do then of water? It's like that, you were saying that the water levels, that threshold is changing.
We are required for regulatory purposes to sample 60 homes within the city of Battle Creek. They're considered tier 1 if they have a lead service line, and we should always use tier 1 if it's possible. So we're making those samples. 2018, they changed the sampling procedure. It used to be a single 1 liter bottle. Now it's a combination of 5 liters. You take the initial liter off a often used for drinking water faucet. You then use the second, third, and fourth bottles to fill and dump, and you save the 5th one. So by using the 1st and the 5th, you're determining lead service level or lead levels in the water that is stagnant in the faucets overnight, because internal plumbing has lead components to it. And then the 5th liter is testing the water that is to assume to have been in that water service line coming into the house. And we have our phosphate treatment, corrosion control at our plant works marvelously.
Yeah, so do you guys have like a protocol for like the homeowner or whatever, like they have to not use water for a certain period
Yes.
of time?
They're required to be stagnant, and starting in 2018, we started a process. Prior, we would leave the sampling containers on the front step with some directions. We were successful with that, but with the changes in the rule, the 1st and 5th, and the criticality of what Flint and now Benton Harbor have caused, we actually offer our 60 sites a credit on their water bill to set an appointment and have one of our employees come in right away in the morning or at the end of the day when they've been out of the house working.
Yeah.
So we've got 6 hours of stagnant, no water use, and we're collecting the samples ourselves.
In a previous meeting that a couple weeks ago, when we were talking about the connection between like the CD programs and the DPW program. It was no one, like we were supposed to be providing you with our water samples. Have you been getting those at all, or?
No, Roger,
Yeah, Roger.
he was sending us the lead results. I had him actually
The lead results.
discontinue that because he was doing it after the replacement of the lead service line. That wasn't serving a purpose. And any lead results have to be reported and could affect our 90th percentile. You're judged on your corrosion control and your lead levels by the 90th highest sample, 90th percentile.
Well, so we test before we do any work, and then we test after.
I have not received anything from Roger for quite some time. Is
Yeah.
Roger still with us?
He's no longer with the city, but we have a new lead inspector as of today, so.
Oh,
that
please hook us up and we'll define a
Add the
process
wiki.
for that to happen.
we should know that.
Yeah.
So Todd is now the lead inspector for our division.
Yeah, we should have the.
So we can do that. If you don't want them, I understand, like, if it doesn't make sense to have them because it might mess something up, that
More
makes
data
sense.
better.
And our protocol is, it's for a different purpose, and because usually we're doing it to reduce lead levels in the lead poisoned child.
Yes.
We actually we have a very strict protocol that, we actually have to test every bit of water all the way out to the curb stop. So we drain every bit of water and everything gets sampled so that if something returns, we have some idea where that water came from. I mean, you've probably seen them early on.
I have, and your program is involving replacing fixtures that have leaded brass in them.
Well, so
And
that's
that
part of the
would be
program.
Reason we wanted to get away from using your sampling, because
It
it's
might
not
be.
sampling the public works side of it.
Yeah, it's not the same as yours. But so I didn't know, and we don't, those things don't come back hot, like, right? So
No,
similar to yours, we don't have a problem. We rarely have any kind of problem at all. If we've ever had a problem.
the treatment process is having the same effect on the water service line as it is on faucets.
Right.
and-
So we're just affirming the
Sorry.
statement you made a second ago.
So
But if you wanted them,
our testing locations are actually approved by Eagle, so we can't use other locations.
yeah, so it doesn't change yours at all. It's just additional information and maybe just,
Yeah.
all right, fair
And
enough.
as we replace the lead service line at one of our sampling sites, we have to find another sampling site. Because we can no longer use that
It's
one.
gonna come harder and harder to find.
And it's
sample
getting more and
locations.
more difficult to get 60 appointments. Fortunately, we have a window of June through September to accomplish that every year.
Okay, any other questions for Perry? Our last item that we have here, well, not our last item, but a last informational item is, we have Kurt here and he's gonna give us a summary. We do have we received a drinking water assessment asset management grant from the state. And so not all of the money that we're expending here are from ratepayers. So this is a little bit of good news here. So
Yeah, so the state advertised and accepted grants for up to $1 million. So I thought we'd be at least get $500,000 or $1 million. So it sounded good anyway. So we submitted and they came back to us and said they really want to spread the money out throughout all the communities in the state. So they said, what could you pare down? So, they were looking for 100,000, but we managed to talk them to 155,000. So, and that covered some of our consultants' work for our asset management plan and for our rate study. So we got reimbursed for their work. So we right away got $36,437 reimbursed from the state. And then they were going to help us with the purchase of 50% of a hydrovac truck to help continue with our back verifies of water services.
so that'll give us 2 in our fleet.
Yeah. So
Oh, nice.
so that's 118,576. We were hoping to have that this summer, but realized the supply issues that everyone's going through. So it looks like September.
September, October.
So and I just heard today the chassis should be in the shop in a couple of weeks. So it's the drum and the working equipment will be coming later.
Investment in those very expensive trucks has proven to be beneficial in so many other areas in fixing water main lights and service
yeah.
lines. They were bought with the intent of this vac and verify process, but they're proving their worth in a lot of ways.
And just, here's a good example. So when we were doing this grant, we thought you could also do these vac and verify the actual work. And we were looking at it, we average about $100 to $150 per vac. Most state communities are in the $300 to $400. So we just blow it. So that's why let's go to the Vector truck. We'll get more bang for our money with the Vector truck. So we've become quite efficient. And I think that's someone that's with our crews and with the Vector truck.
This is a pretty wear intensive vehicle. So having 2 in our fleet allows us to continue to be our most efficient. So
Keep the people we have hired busy.
questions for Kurt? Okay. Our next item is public comment. I'm not seeing any public. I guess before we adjourn, if there's any member comment before we adjourn.
I brought some lead material since it's related. Just the other stuff that we are putting out for residences. So for the mayor, if he hasn't seen these, are for Kathy.
You might want, since we've now identified Melissa as our point person, you might want to run her through your program, just so if she's talking with people.
We had a meeting a couple weeks ago specifically about
We
this.
went over our
and it
new
was-
website.
Yeah, and
And I'm actually thinking like, I mean, I just wonder, so like, let me just pass this out, because this is a flyer, you wanna pass these around, do this.
the bright colors.
Yeah, and then this one's actually in Spanish for neighborhoods where we have a high, like behind Nina's, we know that about a third of that neighborhood is Spanish speakers.
And
We actually send this out and it's in Spanish, but it says open in English, and you can open it up, fold it, turn it around, and it's all in English, but it's kind of cool to get something that's in Spanish. If you're a Spanish speaker, you may not be used to that, right? And we've got some posters and we've got some big signs, and our website has similar type graphics. And the website has a lot of information for landlords, so they understand their responsibilities. Folks running a business, sort of what they need to do, just some public education around that, contractors and what's required of contractors. Doing residential construction on older homes, and then families, just helping families understand sort of how, everything there is to know about lead poisoning, including, we're trying to drive people to access resources. But the graphics and stuff are just really, instead of, some folks go to like scare the bejeebus out of folks and go after landlords and that kind of stuff. We try to take a very different approach and keep it light, like good, solid, like real information, not sort of pulling any punches about the dangers and the risks for families, but to keep it fun, informational, that kind of stuff. So it's approachable stuff, and the website's that way. I'm just thinking maybe we should be doing more around the water piece, because then it can be a resource for those folks that are like, does this mean I'm getting lead poisoned or I might get lead poisoned? It has a lot of really good information about how lead poisoning happens. And we know in Battle Creek, there are lots of kids getting lead poisoned actually in Battle Creek, lots of them, right? And it's not coming from the water.
Yeah.
It's not from the water, it's from the lead, it's from paint dust. Now, that's the primary way that folks are getting lead poisoned. So
Your number 3 here could certainly be expanded, do it yourself projects, modernize your faucets.
Yeah.
That's part of reducing lead.
Yeah, we've discussed combining kind of our area, like when letting them know, what area we're in and trying to combine our efforts, I guess, in these areas. Because once you get one person to talk, if you get a homeowner to talk to you, maybe they'll talk to you about the whole thing. Once you get somebody to open up, it's a lot easier to.
And then hopefully they'll tell their neighbor and you folks aren't
I've
running
gotten,
roughshod over them, and yeah.
I've had a lot of people come out and say that, am I getting my lead service replaced? They're getting their lead service replaced. Like, you already did, or you're on. Actually, yesterday, that happened. Somebody came out and was like, actually, I've been trying to contact you for months, and yeah, it's good. So.
Chris, any other comments?
well, thanks for all the good work you guys are doing.
Kathy?
No, this was very enlightening.
Same here, during the meeting, I really appreciate the information, appreciate this, Chris. Somehow I'll incorporate it in my report.
Yeah.
Please do.
All right, and with that, then we are adjourned. It is
See you in another year, right?
Yeah, it's just,